I have a report. It's really funny because I don't have the words for, the other day I was in Bliss when I was in Lithia Park and talking to the trees, and it was funny because I was enjoying it, but I was like, this is going to come and go. And I was like, Gangaji would be so proud that I just didn't just like be in Bliss. But the reason I wanted to come up this time was because I wanted to sort of testify. I have a report for the Sangha. My story, of course, is that, I've had a lot of people pass away in my life. And so that's always been a huge thing for me. Trauma after trauma after trauma. And then I discovered you. And when my best friend and ex-boyfriend, Chris, passed away, 3 months after surviving Pulse nightclub, he had a brain aneurysm, of course. You, with the most loving heart and the most sincere ruthlessness, which I love, asked me to point to the separation. And I'm still on that sentence because I cannot find a separation. That's number one. Number two, one thing I've always struggled with, of course, death always wins. Death has been very ever present in my life. And, I've had friends growing up in the 80s dying of AIDS. And I had another dear friend pass in a car crash. And another person just disappeared altogether and can never be found. Another thing I wanted to say is that by having this teaching in my life, you didn't just save my life, you saved my life for what it was going to become. It was always going to be full of sadness and despair and unhappiness. And last year, I actually got to write an article about Chris on the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub. And it's so funny because even when he passed away, his family didn't come to claim the body. And so many things. So many injustices. Even after he passed away, that was the shocking thing. And this was the big thing was, because that was going to be the last word on his life. But then when I wrote that article, and they printed it really big next to the mayor's article, and 200,000 people saw it. And then the thing was, so I had something to add to something that you always say, because you always say, well, death always wins. But on that day when I read that article and I read that people would, even 100 years later, when the researchers go through the papers and they remember him, they'll remember his smile and they'll remember his love. And I sat there and went, yes, but not today. Not this moment.
That's right, love wins.
Love wins. Love truly does win. And, that's not to say that, tomorrow or the next day death may claim me or anyone else that I love. But when you know that death is powerless before the real underneath love, the love that's underneath all of us.
It's claimed you. It claimed
Yes.
you, and in claiming you, it claimed Chris.
Yes.
And everyone you loved,
Yes.
dead or alive.
And just briefly, I just wanted to say that my friend Justin, who introduced me to you by a video, he's like, I think you'll like Gangaji. And he turned on this YouTube video, and I was immediately drawn to it. He had a really hard life because he was put through gate conversion when he was 16 and tortured. And he struggled with alcoholism. But the thing is that now I'm starting to see, like, now that I have said yes and have been waiting and been into it. Now, what I wanted to say to you and to everyone is that now I could see that he brought me to all of you. And so his life is still here. And his love is still touching all of us. And that is, I can testify to that is, that if there's someone in here that's feeling despair, and if that's why you're here, you can keep going deeper. And a lot of times I hear people say, well, what do I do with this now that I woke up? You know, what do I do with this? I have my answer that I can share is that you love more, open more, and there is no end to what you can do as a person, and I believe that's the point of this. And so, and even one last thing is that I know I have someone in my life I love that's struggling with alcohol. And it is a tough battle, as I'm sure I know you know. But person, we through the teachings and being able to love and to open and to be patient, and not everyone can always do this, and not every situation's the same, but we've been able to get him to a place where he's getting treatment. And so death, which has won all my life, I may not always win, but I won for this moment.
Love wins.
Love wins.
It's the only thing that defeats death.
Yes.
And that's the secret. That's why you don't
Yes.
ever hear me say it. And we
Yes.
will erase this part of the tape.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
then it's like some kind of, oh, love will defeat. Death
Right.
has to have the upper
Yeah.
hand so that love can show
Yes.
effortlessly
Yes. And
transcendence, permanence.
And I'm just, you know, I know we all say we love you, and I know that it really comes from that deeper place, the place where, I mean, for many of us, you are our Papa G.
Thank you.
And you really do, because you bring us to the light. And it has affected my life, and I just wanted to say thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to
Yes.
hear the influence, because you wanted to be of service. You said right
Yes.
away, how can I be of
Yes.
service to this? And
Yes.
it's a discovery. You have
Yes.
discovered how.
And I'll even say one other thing was because for a while, you know, you always want to express, you know, this teaching. And so, but I went, okay, no. I kind of brought it back. I'm like, life will bring it to me if it needs to happen. And this one woman at work who was 65 years old, her daughter died of COVID. And she came back to work, and I was able to train her, but we actually became friends. And one day we were just having lunch in the lunchroom, and I said, well, you know, my teacher told me this about Chris. He said, you know, point to the separation, and she understood it. I was really thrilled because I was like, I did it. I wasn't trying to do it, and that's the whole thing. And so, but the great thing about it was that she felt peace after that. And that's my, like, what, I'm here to answer the question, what does my life stand for? My life stands for love and to give others peace and hope. And I wouldn't have been able to give them that 6 years ago without your instructions. So I just say thank you again. I love you
Thank you, Jim.
from the bottom of my heart.
Bottom to bottom.